So food systems may sound like a complicated concept, which is in a way true, but at the same time, we are all part of it through our simple daily actions. We all eat food, most probably you buy food, and if lucky, you plant some food. Agriculture indeed is crucial for every human being in this planet, but at the same time, is one of the main drivers of severe problems we are currently facing, including climate change and the contamination and degradation of natural resources. Human and non-human lives are in danger. 1 out of 10 people in the world suffer from hunger. 1 out of 8 animal and plant species are threatened with extinction, and more than 90% of the crop varieties have been lost in the past decades. In my speech today, I want to make a claim that we need, but most importantly, that we can transform our food systems into more sustainable ones, capable of providing not only food, but many other benefits, like water, pollination, soil quality, and biodiversity. And as an interdisciplinary scientist who has navigated through social and natural sciences, I want to focus in one key ingredient to make successful transformations on the ground: the role of social organizations and movements. Okay, you might feel disappointed. After all, you came here for novelty and innovation, and groups of people coming together are as ancient and old as humanity itself. That's true, but I don't mean any kind of social organization. There are some key important features that are often neglected or not implemented. It's important to know and feel, why do you need to be part of a social organization? What are your passions? What drives you? This is key. Many of us think about it. Here in Wageningen, many people work with it. But how do we experience the current problems and solutions? We need to go beyond thinking. In my case, I realized something was not going right with food systems when I was 6 years old, and I was going with my grandfather to his house by car when I saw a bunch of improvised tents next to the road. And the people there were struggling. I could feel their pain. And I asked my grandfather, who are these people? And he, quite a conservative man, he answered, these people are invading the land of others. They have nothing to do. They are vagabonds. So these people on the street, they were invading a large sugarcane farm in the region. They were actually part of the movement of landless rural workers, one of the biggest social movements in Brazil. And as a child, I could not understand exactly what was going on. I could feel something was not right. And later, in fact, I realized that 3 of the main problems with agriculture are visible in this example. First, lack of land access. Those people on the street were not simply invading the land. They were occupying and claiming for a piece of land to work and live with dignity. And the second problem, the presence of very large and often inefficient farms. In a country like Brazil, 1% of the farmers own 50% of the land. And this is a legacy problem connected to colonialism and the way the land was divided in the past. And finally, the prejudice of society against marginalized groups, which is a reflex of an inequalitarian society where few people and countries have a lot, and a lot of people have nothing. This experience contributed to my motivation to fight for change, to work to conserve and preserve nature without forgetting the people who are part of it. And I started the university in Brazil with the dream to change the world. And very rapidly I felt I ran into solid reality. However, I found a way to go towards change with student groups who were doing amazing independent work, the student movement. And I think that's when I found out the second important feature of social organizations. They need to push for transformative change. And as students, we were pushing for change in different levels. We were proposing and implementing changes in the educational curriculum, but also organizing extracurricular activities, allowing students to go beyond formal education and get in contact with the reality of farmers and their organizations. We were organized at local level, but also at regional and national level. And we created the national network of agroecology groups in Brazil. And through this movement, we were able to build and share knowledge, to know that we are not alone in the fight for transformation, and very importantly, to build a common political, education, and research agenda. And as a result, for example, in a project with a local NGO, we were able to influence the development of new forest regulations in Brazil, pushing for the recognition of the social and ecological benefits of diversified agroforestry systems managed by family farmers with the principles of agroecology. And agroecology can provide the principles for the design and management of sustainable and resilient farming systems. Our research shows that agroecological management practices can promote biodiversity and ecosystem services while maintaining adequate crop productivity. And therefore, agroecology and agroecological management practices are able to transform degraded landscapes into highly efficient and diversified systems. However, agroecology is not only about agricultural practices, and our research also showed that social movements allowed farmers to share knowledge and to develop a more complex understanding on ecosystem functioning. And in turn, this more complex perception was associated with more diversified and sustainable systems on the ground. This reinforces the importance of social movement and farmers' knowledge to promote and achieve successful transformations. And in 2012, I came to the Netherlands. I got a scholarship from the Brazilian government to conduct a one-year internship abroad. And although I was excited to come here for the first time, I also came with a mission. I wanted to know how the agroecology movement looked like in the Netherlands and how I could help to promote it. And I think it was then when the third future of social organizations became clear to me. People should feel ownership of the project. Usually, projects have a hierarchical structure. One person has the idea, is the leader, the owner, and the other members help the leader to achieve their goal. In fact, according to John Croft, an Australian educator, most projects fail because people do not feel ownership of it. In other words, people are not allowed to put their dreams in the project, and as a consequence, they don't work with full motivation. According to John Croft, a successful project should be developed in 4 main steps: dreaming, planning, doing, and celebrating. And we often forget about dreaming and celebrating. And by doing that, we neglect our emotional side, our infinite, subjective, imaginative, and creative version. We use these principles to create a new course at Wageningen University the Farm Experience Internship. And it was not a regular course, but one led by students, with practical and real-life examples, allowing students to connect their theory with the practice and the reality of farmers. And the course was inspired by a project organized throughout Brazil by students in collaboration with social movements, including the movement of landless rural workers. And yes, it's the same movement I mentioned in the beginning of my talk. So social movements like that can promote changes, not only in agriculture, but also in education. And in Wageningen, we formed a team from zero resources, zero budget, and we still managed to organize a successful course and end up with a positive cash balance. And this was only possible because of the collective effort and because all group members were allowed to put their dreams in the project. They all owned it. And after 1 year, I returned to Brazil, and the main question I got from my supervisors was, okay, very nice that you organized this course, but how it will keep going without you? And I responded, no worries. The project is not mine anymore. We built it collectively, and the collective will carry it on. And so it happened, and the course has been going on for more than 10 years now at Wageningen. For me, this is a big lesson. A successful project should be able to run without a permanent leader. We need situational leadership, which is closely connected to the theory of the Brazilian educator Paulo Freire. Nobody knows everything, and nobody knows nothing. We all know something, and we can all learn something from each other. And this is an important principle to make social organizations strong and resilient. And eventually, I ended up coming back to Wageningen, where I did my PhD and my postdoc on agroecology, and now I work as assistant professor at Utrecht University. And I'm very happy that I'm able to apply the bottom-up and participatory approaches that I have been learning with social movements in formal education. And students appreciate it a lot, reporting better learning experiences, showing that we need to challenge and transform traditional education methods with more critical, engaging, and participatory methodologies. And I would like to end this talk by stressing the 3 main ingredients that are necessary to transform the hegemonic food system and society with social organizations. Number 1, feel and find your drive. What makes you feel 100% motivated? It is important to experience realities, their challenges, and the solutions. And second, push for transformative change. Think critically and realize our agency powers as individuals, but most importantly, as collectives. Through collectives, we can change the reality and influence policy, education, and science. And finally, allow collective and horizontal knowledge sharing and building, as there is no type of knowledge better than the other, and a dialogue of knowledges should be promoted. This is key to build strong collaborations and successful projects in the long term. We like to think ourselves as individuals, and we often think we can solve the world's problems with individual actions. But we need to go beyond. We need structural changes. And the only way to deeply transform the food system and society is to get organized and work together as a collective.